Good afternoon and welcome to Dialogue with Deidre. I'm your host, Deidre Malone. Welcome to the Carter Malone Network. We're so excited to be here with you today. If you're not following us on our social media platforms or subscribing to our YouTube page, please make sure you do, because you want to keep up with what we're doing here at the network and with Dialogue with Deidre. So I have someone who I've known a long time. She's a former educator, former school board member, actually chaired the school board, business owner, and a church founder. She founded Real Life Ministries. I want to welcome to Dialogue with Deidre, actually welcome back, Bishop Althea Greene.
Good afternoon. I'm so excited to be here.
Bishop, and I love the color you're wearing. You know, I love that pink.
Absolutely. Real women wear pink.
Yes.
It's Breast Cancer Awareness Month.
So. See, I knew she was going to do that transition. But you're absolutely right. It is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. Bishop, how long have we known each other?
A long time. I would say over 25 years.
Over 25 years.
That's a long time to know someone.
You have been, let me just say, when my boys were in Snowden. I mean, did you teach both of them, Brian and Kirk?
No, I only taught
Brian.
But I had also a new Kirk, and I had the grandbaby. So
that's right, Patrick.
Patrick, so I got to know Brian through that. So just knowing your family for so long has really been a blessing to me.
Oh, well, you've been a blessing to us. I tell everybody, I'd call and say, hey, I'm coming late to pick up Trey from after school. And you're like, I've got him.
I got him.
You've got him. So how has it been, Bishop? I mean, you were in education for more than 30 years.
Actually, 34 years as an educator.
Right.
And then once I retired, I went back 4 years as a child care supervisor. So that's 38 years. And when you count the 5 on the board, something like 42.
Yes.
Which is a long time for anybody to do anything. But when you love what you're doing, time just goes by.
Has education changed over time, though? I mean, from when you first graduated from college and then got into the system, what's changed about education?
I would say the change happened when corporal punishment was taken out.
Because I didn't have a
felt
problem
like
with y'all whooping my
educators
kids.
Were able to even just threaten a child,
right?
They would straighten up,
right?
And I think the complaint I hear now from friends who are still teaching, it is discipline.
Yeah,
it is discipline.
I mean, just having the principal or teacher just say, we're gonna paddle him or her if they don't get in line. As a parent, we appreciated that back in the day,
right? And so if you think about the discipline, was removed from the school system. And basically, parents chose to remove discipline from many households.
Right.
Younger parents believed in timeout, And you and I know, we believe that the Bible said, spare the rod, spoil the child.
Exactly.
But look at the generation of children, what we know, discipline and just being those great parents. Look at how our kids have turned out. And then we're looking at the generation now saying what's wrong.
Right. And then they talk back to you now.
It's parenting skills. I'm in the grocery store and child want to get a box of cereal. The parents say no. And I'm wondering why the child is laying in the floor.
Right.
I just want to just be a teacher and just
grab them up.
Just pick them up and have a little conversation.
Right.
And parents are just standing there like, please get up. And I just have to quickly push my basket on by the child.
I know it's a different.
It's a challenge.
I think younger parents would say psychologically when you spank that it does something to the child that that they become really afraid of you.
And I think the crime rate in juvenile court will say now look at the resort of our psychological thinking, I don't want to do my child like that. Right. My parents disciplined me, but it worked for us.
It did.
And if I got a spanking about something one time, trust me, I didn't do that again.
And my mother will tell you that. As the oldest of 5, she said, I just had to spank her one time. And every time I'd look at her, she'd say, Ma, it's good. I'm in line, right? Mm-hmm. And so, I think about my kids when they were growing up, and I would tell my husband, look, I'm going to spank them because in 5 minutes they're going to be taller than me. And then I need them to be scared of me because when I say something. So it got to a point when I tried to spank them, Bishop, they laugh. And so my husband would come home. I said, they thought it was funny, right? And and then he'd go back behind me.
And it wasn't funny.
It wasn't funny then.
Sometimes boys need the father touch.
Yeah.
Even though as a single parent, I had girls.
Right.
And it was easy, but I have grandsons, and they fear me.
Ooh.
And they are 5'8" and 6'2".
Oh, and see, you need them to fear you.
Absolutely.
Absolutely, Bishop. I tell you. So education's a lot different today. So transitioning from being in the classroom to managing like the after school program. How was that? Because
that was just an extension of my day job.
Okay.
And back then in aftercare, my thing was parents want homework done.
Yeah.
Parents want to pick students up and no. And parents at Snowden, if they pulled up and homework wasn't done, so Miss Greene, I'm going to leave him here and I'll be back. So I understood the assignment. Back then, people had Bible study and other extracurricular activities. So it was an extension of my day job, was making sure that children understood homework assignments. If I needed to tutor them, we made sure that happened. Wonderful partnership with Rhodes College, where the college students came over and they would tutor kids with us. And so it was very impactful. If you go back and look at test scores back then, aftercare, morning care, we made everything all about education.
Right. And so today, let's transition to you were appointed and elected to the school board. So that was just an extension of it. It's just at a different level.
Just an extension of education,
right?
Rather than being an educator in the classroom. It was a little different sitting there, having to pass policies, having to understand that budget and how it worked, and how to understand what needed to be included in the budget. I think that was probably the most difficult lesson for me. Was year one was the budget. Right. But year two, after reading and going to class, I understood the budget. I understood what needed to be there. I understood the things that did not need to be there. I understood how to look at the budget and say, was this program effective? No. Mm-hmm. Okay, let's take this out the budget. Right. And I think those are the hard decisions that you make when you sit on the school board. You have three things to do: oversee that budget, make sure that policies are what need to be passed, need to be updated. But the most important thing, and the one that the community still do not understand to this day, is the number one thing is to hire and fire the superintendent. That is your employee. And you have to manage them. And I think sometimes the community, the Bible say people perish for lack of knowledge. And I think people don't understand that when we make decisions with our employee, we're doing what you elected us to do.
Exactly.
But they don't understand that.
Right. But I mean, I think that talking about it now, maybe they will, because I think sometimes they think that elected boards are supposed to be like rubber stamps.
Right.
And they're not.
Of course
you
not.
were elected to serve and make decisions. Just like when I was on the county commission, the mayor was an elected individual. It's different with the school board. Mm-hmm. You hire and you can fire.
Right.
But your responsibility is to bring them in, manage them. Right.
Have oversight.
When
something is wrong, we have to speak to it.
Right.
We have to call it out. And I have problems because I'm a person who serves with integrity.
Right.
I'm the person who's going to call it out.
Right.
Well, as an educator for all those years, I'm used to correcting children. I'm used to telling parents, well, I recommend that you do this. And so it was a different feel to sit there, but I understood the assignment.
And there's so few former educators that move into that governance role as an elected official.
That's right.
So you saw both sides of it, right? You're coming from the standpoint of, I was an educator, right, for 30-something years. Now I'm sitting here and seeing how this whole process works. Right. What works when it comes to literacy? What works when it comes to math? Because you were in the classroom.
That's right. And
a parent.
That first year on the board, and maybe the first two, I felt so honored because Billy Orgel got to the point that he would say, well, wait a minute, we're going to ask Greene. Because Greene was, and, they would like, yeah, well, And so I felt trusting my leadership, my guidance with the decisions. And so It's different now because I just get to sit back and not be stressed and not be worried and traveling and enjoying life, but still keeping my eyes on what's going on in education.
I think people don't realize, Bishop, that it is stressful when you're elected. Mm-hmm. I mean, it is a big job. People have elected you to, it's $1 billion budget that you deal with. It's not $100,000. It's
not
over
like
$1 billion.
It is. That comes with accountability.
Right.
And so you're right. People don't understand, but I don't know how many dialogues with Deidre we need to start doing for parents and for the community, because we have to keep trying to help them understand.
Right.
And sometimes when I look at teacher exchange or some of the comments on there, I even understand that there are people in education who just don't understand.
They don't understand.
They don't understand.
Well, we're going to continue to have dialogue because I
yes.
think education is one of the most important issues that face our community and one of the most expensive.
It is.
You know, it is expensive to educate a child.
It's cheaper to educate a child than to house them in jail or a detention center or juvenile court. It is cheaper to educate a child. And that's the message for the community. We, the community, the faith-based, the business community, we have to take the community back and all step up to do our part.
Right.
It's not the school's part. It's all of us working collectively to make sure that it happens.
Then my last question about education, because we could talk about education for 30 minutes. When you were in the classroom and over the 30 years, did you feel like sometimes you had to be the parent too?
Of course. I was the parent. I was the chaplain.
Yeah.
I was the counselor, but I loved it.
Yeah.
Because I was gifted to be able to do all of those things. Some of my years as a teacher, I was a chaplain at Regional 1 and UT Bowl. So I got an opportunity to use that experience. I had been blessed to do prison ministry. And so I used to go out to the penal farm twice a month to minister to the guys. So I was able to tell my students, look, let me just tell you where you headed.
If you don't straighten up.
Right. And then when you're working at the med, let me tell you where you could end up if you don't straighten up. And so just being able to take all of those things and to put them into the love and happiness that I gave my students, it was a blessing to me.
Let's talk about the business. Let me just say, I mean, how long have you been in business? And tell people the name of the business.
Honestly, my family owned the Family Affair, and I started working at the club when I was 17. So my family introduced me to business. I mean, the club, the car lot, they just made sure that I understood life and how to always make an honest living. And so I realized that my passion was grilling. And so I started Greene's Grill. But because my mother and my daughter cooked, we started 3 generations catering because we would all contribute to, just doing events. And then Mika branched off to Party Peach or something. And so I kind of missed that when before I got on the board, I was doing Meals for Busy Family. So I would cook for all of my friends for the week. Mm-hmm. And when I got on the board, they all got upset. And so now that they think I don't have anything to do, I've kind of started back spoiling people by cooking again. So I'm loving it because now I have time to just put the love into what I do.
So, Bishop, let me just say that we fight over your food. I just have to tell the audience that, my sons, our friend Jesse Johnson, we will fight. Jesse took my food to his home one day, and I was like, dude, you better bring me my food. So anyway, can cook. So I love the fact the 3 generations, learning from mom, mm-hmm. and then you, and then your daughter.
Passing it down because I need my children to understand you can make as much money as you want to make when you're catering.
That's right.
This week, in 5 days, I've cooked 3 pots of oxtail soup.
It's
because every day it was none left. And then somebody would say, well, I didn't get any. So it's like, well, okay, let me cook some more. So I'm not cooking any more soup this week. I've done last night was my last pot, but I love it. I love that people love great food. And we know Memphis, there's so many great places to go, but how many places do you go and you can get smoked chicken salad, or you can get oxtail soup, or you can get turkey
Green's
ribs?
Catering.
You know, those things are not something you just walk into a place and
No,
get.
and
So I love to just do what I do.
And I have to say, elected officials just come to your house and think that you just supposed to have food ready for them,
Absolutely.
Bishop.
And Bishop does.
I
Even
know
when I
you
retired
do.
as a teacher, Dorsey will tell you there was a hot bag on the desk every Tuesday. And if they weren't in the office, lunch was in the office. And so, you know, I kind of spoil some of my friends, Dorsey and Dr. Ray, and then our interim superintendent. You know, I love just making sure that they were fed and they didn't have to go home and worry about things. So it just comes with the territory of being a pastor. You know, you just want to minister to people, even through food.
Yeah, and you just bless people. Let's transition into the ministry. When did you realize you were called?
Wow, it was scary. I've been preaching. It will be 33 years in December. And so I had a very 20s coming third generation preacher, but the only female in my family. And I spoke for Youth Day at Valentine Church, which I was a member of. And it was just some strange stuff happened that I'd never experienced before. Yeah. And I ran from it just like, no, you can't be a preacher. You're a woman. Women don't preach, you know. And I had to battle with myself. And finally, I told my pastor that Sunday, you know, and he was like, come by the house tomorrow. And I was like, I'm a teacher, but I took off. And when I pulled up, the front door was open. And I later asked Miss Fields, why was the door open? She said, we knew you had been called and we were waiting for you. So it's been a journey to preach 33 years, pastoring 21 years. Yeah. I love it because being a servant is special. Being the first African-American homegrown Memphian to be consecrated as a bishop was special. And so I know that God has a special place in his heart for me. And I try to have that same energy and love for people, you know, to be a giver, to be a blessing to people. And so ministry has just been rewarding.
Has it been tough, though, being a female?
When I
in the
first
ministry?
started preaching, I can remember going to a church to preach, and they wouldn't let me in the pulpit. Mm-hmm. And they would put podiums like down by the audience and say, preach here, don't come up here. Yeah. And I remember a few years ago, I went to preach at a Missionary Baptist church here in Memphis. Yeah. And when I went to the pastor's office, he said, take her in the room where they count money. I don't want her in here. And my feelings were so hurt. I went in the little room where they count money and called co-pastor Deborah Reed and said, may I leave? Because I didn't even want to preach it. Right. My feelings were just, how are you so disrespectful? Right. And I stayed. And I remember when I was seated in the pulpit, the pastor sat on the back row where the ushers sit. Like he wouldn't even come near the front of the church. But I also remember preaching. And later my daughter took some pictures to show me that the pastor was up hollering so that when I finished, he was behind me in the choir stand. And so God has a way. You might want to sit there and be like, I don't want to hear a woman, but, you know, times have changed. And so most of the invitations I accept now, people welcome me, but I don't go places where I'm not welcome anymore.
I remember having a conversation with my pastor one time, and I was chairing Women's Month, and it was a real candid conversation. I said, you know, Reverend, I said, women can teach, which means they understand the Bible. If you allow them to teach, then why can't they preach? You know? And you know, I think for the female pastors that I know, we put so much into a sermon. It's nothing for me to put 100 hours into a sermon. And if you ever watch me, I memorize my sermon. Yeah. You don't see me reading. You see me making eye contact. My members will tell you I'm walking around. You like Frank Ray. Frank Ray.
I just don't hoop and tune up as much as Frank, you know. You know, I don't do all that sometimes. But, I mean, yes. And so I think people enjoy you preaching because you're so real, you're so authentic. And you can just, you know, my church is real life because I keep it real.
I love
you know,
I'm the
real Reverend Al Greene. And yes, they play Love and Happiness. That's the theme song of the church.
I love it.
So it's so unique, but I love it too.
So how has it been, Bishop, you know, juggling it all? I mean, the public service piece, the ministry, the business, That's a
the
lot.
family.
The family.
It was hard. Sometimes I felt like I was trying to push a ball up a hill and I wasn't moving the ball. It's like, come on, But I gave it 100% and I was able to find the balance in ministry. My members, they understood. They also understood when I was stressed.
Yeah.
They understood when things were going on. And, they prayed for me. And I know they always covered me with prayer. They would just text me a scripture. Sometimes I needed that. And I had friends who would do the same thing. And so I think having people in your life like the Deidre Malone,
that's right,
the Tawan Stoughton Mitchell, that you can pick up the phone, the Frida Williams, that I could pick up the phone, the Reverend K.T. Whalum Jr., that I could pick up the phone and say, Pastor, can you just pray? When I could just call people, cry, just be my real self, who understood what it was like trying to do all of that. But I'm grateful now that I'm in a season where I'm relaxed, I'm traveling, I'm enjoying life, and I'm doing the things that I really want to do. Now I believe that God has more for me to do, but right now, God is giving me a break and a vacation.
Break and vacation is good. I know I called her one day and she was out of town. I was like, what are you doing? I'm just resting, but I'm out of town. And that's all good.
It is good. I have 2 more before the year's out, 2 more vacations. And so that's a part of enjoying life. And I want to remind people, mental health is real.
It is.
You have to learn to stop and take time to rest, to regroup, to get yourself together. I don't care how strong you are, how strong you look. We have to say, I need a vacation. I need a mental health day. I need a break. And you have to just get away from people, shut the phone off, and just watch Netflix all day.
But Bishop, that's so hard. Look, my son, he's behind the camera and he's pointing at me. Because I came in, and it might have been Monday. And anybody who knows me knows I have a couple of jobs. And I was sitting there, and it was like 7:30 in the morning. I'm sitting there, and I'm thinking, and my sister had a plaque that's in my office now. And it's faith over fear. So I don't fear much. You've known me a long time. I'm not afraid of much. But I was overwhelmed that Monday. And I remember talking to my boys, and I said, I got to get it together because I got a lot I got to get done. I got to push through. And they said to me, Ma, sometimes you just need to take a break.
It's good.
Sometimes, and I'm going to Scotland in November for about 10 days, but I don't have time for a break right now, so I just got to push through.
But the boys understand.
They do.
Because they're grown now.
Yeah.
And they understand that every now and then the boys need a break.
They do.
Your employees need a mental health day about
they do.
once every 90 days.
Don't say that too. Don't
You've
say that too much because they tell me that.
Health day. But I found out that you can get more out of your employees.
You can.
When we learn to say, you know what? Hey, we shutting down today. Yes. No, it's not President's Day. It's not the 4th of July. But you know what? It's the Carter Malone Group Mental Health Day.
I love it.
I love it too. And I think the employees get an opportunity to just refresh. And then when they come back, you can just work them.
Right.
But they understand you value them as an employee. And I don't see enough black businesses taking advantage of understanding that their employees need a mental health day.
Yes.
If you're overwhelmed, what do we...
They are too.
They are too.
Because they've got a lot of pressure too.
Absolutely. They're trying to meet your deadlines and help you. So you are so right.
Absolutely. So we're going to work on that.
And thank you. I gave you that for free. I'm not even going to bill you for that.
I love it. I appreciate that. So now I want people to know some fun stuff about you. What's your favorite food?
My favorite food is steak.
Steak? Really?
It is. And it's been my favorite food. When I was probably 10 or 11, my parents would let us have our own steak. So, back when I was in elementary and junior high school, we would have our own T-bone steak.
Really? It's the consistency that bothers me, Bishop.
But I'm able to marinate 24 hours.
So it's
and
very
I can
tender?
give you a steak off the grill that you don't even have to... The meat, you can just
falls apart.
I'm going to have to do that for the Carter Malone Group. Let them experience that. Yeah. Snowden know that when we had Teachers Day, I grilled steaks for the whole school, and I loved it. And they will tell you they all started enjoying steak. Because they was like, the first time I told Miss Battle, I said, I'll do the steaks. I stayed there marinating steaks till like 8 at night. She said, what were you doing? I said, well, I had to wash them and I had to season them. She said, you washed them. And I started asking people who didn't look like me, do you wash steaks? And they all said no.
You got to wash
your
meat.
They all said no. So no wonder they were enjoying those steaks. I washed them, I marinated them, and I seasoned them. So, I do this 24-hour prep. And so steak is my favorite.
Oh
meat.
my goodness.
I mean, if I go out and you want to take me out,
we're gonna
take
buy
me
you
to
a
Ruth
steak.
Chris, give me a steak. I mean, even Golden Corral, when I'm in Vegas, I go there just to have Steak Friday. And I be waiting in line like the rest of the people.
I can't wait.
I love a great steak.
What's your favorite movie, Bishop?
The Imitation of Life.
Oh, why? That's a good one.
I started watching that one as a child, and going to Valentine School where there were less than 20 African American children. Remember, I went to Valentine School back in 1966.
Right.
Well, I went to Snowden after Dr. King was killed in 1968. There were very few kids who looked like me. It was something about that movie that I learned to understand the relationship between black and white people, between black and white children. It also taught me to honor your mother and to be grateful. Watching her cry when it was too late and how disrespectful she was. Yeah. All of that helped me growing up. I never wanted to be that person. And so I think movies, I love watching Lifetime movies. I get my sermons come out of movies. Yeah. I birth sermons out of movies. And so I use everything as just an experience in life for me to teach and preach about it.
I love it. And who is your favorite singer?
My favorite singer is Julian Cross.
I knew you were going to say Julian.
When you...
He can sing.
He can sing. Just having a student, and I have other students. So Julian Cross.
You better name them
Michelle
all.
Prather.
Okay, yeah.
Courtney Franklin.
Yes.
Those were all students that I taught, that stayed at my house, that I watched them grow up, watching the Whalen boys grow up to be musicians as God's sons. And so I'm proud of all of them, but I just love singing. And right now I'm really pushing, promoting, and waiting for Julian to just continue to go up to the top.
Because he was in American Idol. Was it American Idol?
He was. And Julian, I met Julian at Snowden and Aftercare.
Yes.
So to just track him, even though Courtney and Michelle I met in elementary school.
Right.
So I watched them also grow up and be successful recording artists. But Julian has been the baby. He's been that last one to come. And I just love great gospel singing, but I love jazz. Kurt Whalum, I don't miss a concert. And so I'm one of those balanced people in life. I'm a Libra, so we're balanced. Whether it's jazz, whether it's gospel. When I was in Vegas, I went to see Elvis Presley.
You did?
And I enjoyed every second of it. So I love music, and I just love music.
I love music too, and my taste in music is very diverse. I like, of course, R&B. I like rap. I like country. Yeah. So, very, very diverse palette when it comes to music.
I only accept country music when I'm eating in the Dolly Parton restaurant. Then I can just listen to that music, eat my food, and it just blesses my heart. But, I'm like you. I just love music.
I just love music. So, last question for you as we wrap this up on Dialogue with Deidre Bishop. Mm-hmm. It's election season. What do you want to say to some folks who are sitting out there thinking about maybe trying to stay at home with this election that's so crucial?
Well, yesterday I decided to go and do my early voting, and I had to wait in line.
That's a good thing.
And I was at Greater Lewis Street, but I stayed in line. But I realized the line was long, and there were very few people who looked like us. I am saying to you all, get up and go vote. If you look at the picture that was in the newspaper, the people voting the other day, they weren't people who looked like us.
Right.
I watched the news last night, the 5 top voting precincts.
Which ones were they?
They were out east. None of them were in our community. We need to take this election serious. We have a record of just getting very relaxed. This is a very important race. Yeah. It's going to make or break us. And I say to all African American people died so that we could have the right to vote. People have gone through a lot over the course of our history, the NAACP and those organizations fighting for us. How dare you sit at home? How dare you get off work and drive by a precinct and not take advantage of early voting. They're open tomorrow, by the way, on Saturdays. Right. Get up and make it a priority. So you will be able to say to your children, as the Bible say, your children, I voted. I exercised the right. People died. I love the right that we have to vote as females. I mean, we should be in line.
So I participated in a news conference yesterday, really trying to encourage women to go out and vote. Mm-hmm. And this is what I talked about. White men were given the opportunity to vote who owned property in the 1700s. White women were given the opportunity to vote in 1820.
But
1965, in my lifetime, was the Voter Registration Act enacted. Now, in the 1800s, black men were given the right to vote, and then the law changed, right, where they had to pass a test in order to vote. So a lot of them couldn't pass the test, and that was voter suppression back then. My lifetime, Bishop, I was born in 1962. 1965 was when the Voters' Rights Act was enacted. And then you still have to have it voted on periodically, in order for it to stay in place where you don't have discriminatory practices when it comes to voting. Our folks fought for the right to vote. Mm-hmm. And if you're not voting in this country and you look like me, something's wrong with you. Because the laws, look at what happened with Dobbs. Yes. Look at what happened with Roe versus Wade, overturned. Mm-hmm. I mean, just like you make the laws, you can get them overturned.
I know. I had someone ask me yesterday, so do you really think a black female could be the president of the United States? I said, well, where were you when Obama became the president of the United States?
Exactly.
I said, it's faith, and it's us voting and making her the first African American.
Right.
Yes, we can do this. We can do this. Get up and go vote.
And let me just say, if you go back to 2016, when Hillary Clinton should have been the president of these great United States, and we elected Donald Trump, and you know who made sure that Hillary Clinton wasn't the president of the United States? It was white women.
Right.
So I hope they realize now that a very competent female, she just happens to be black and Asian, can lead this country.
Really. Anybody can lead this country beside Trump. Your grandson, my grandson, to do it. It is very scary. I just don't know what it's going to take. I mean, we've been through a pandemic. Come on, folks. It is time for us to get up, rise up, let our voices be heard, but let our votes be counted.
And Bishop, I raised 2 black men, right? And if either one of them said to me, well, Mom, I'm voting for Trump because he gave us a check. His name was on that check. He gave you the money that you if you got one of those checks, it was because you were a taxpayer.
Right.
He didn't give it to you.
He didn't give you anything. You earned that check.
He didn't give you anything. So parting thoughts, get out and vote. Bishop says she got out and voted yesterday. Pat and I are going out to vote tomorrow. Early voting is underway in Memphis and Shelby County. And early voting across this country is underway.
Go vote.
Go vote.
Call your neighbor. Call your family members. Just
take them
have
with you.
Checklist. If you need a ride to the poll, call me. I have a little time every day. I'd love to come and give you a ride to the poll. You would have to go through Deidre Malone, Carter Malone group.
Call us.
And they would send me the address. Yes. And I promise you, I'm going to give you a nice, comfortable ride. I'll even have some water and snacks in there.
901-278-0881. Call us. We'll get you to the polls. It's just that critical. Bishop, parting thoughts. If last question, somebody's thinking about going into education, what do you want them to know?
I want them to know that we will always need educators. And if I had it to do all over again, I would still be an educator. The joy of my life was teaching and now watching my students be successful and calling me and following them on social media. And so if you're thinking about going into education, don't just think about it, do it. It's a great field to go into. You get summers off.
Yeah.
You get paid holidays. Hey, they make great money.
Yes.
And you get to really learn the world through the students that you teach.
And then you can follow them and see how successful they become. That's amazing. Bishop Althea Greene, my friend, thank you so much for being on Dialogue with Deidre.
Thank you for having me here. And as always, I'm the real Reverend Al Greene, wishing you much love and much happiness.
Thank you, Bishop. Thank you for watching Dialogue with Deidre. We're here every Friday. So make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube. And I think we're getting ready to be on a podcast at some point. So excited about that too. I'm Deidre Malone, your host. Have a great day.